Be sure you download the note card that goes along with this sermon, and you can print it out and you can follow along, fill it in as you follow the sermon. If you like this sermon, want to see more like this, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, also hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when other new content is added to this site. We try to add sermons as often as we can. We'll try to add some Bible question and answers that we've done before in the past, other things we may be adding to this. If you have questions, leave them in the comments below. If you'd like to follow us on social media, there are links to our social media accounts in the video description below. Now, let's jump into the sermon. With this lesson, with this lesson, threshold, threshold, threshold. With this lesson, we come to the last lesson in our study of the book of Numbers. Been an interesting study. Been a study of movement, been a study of anticipation, a study of disobedience, new generation coming on to take the land. Here is a pictorial from Bible Project Group of the range of the chapters, things that were covered in the chapters, of illustration for all of it. Starting out at the base of Mount Sinai, and then chapter 10, movement, travel starts. All the way we get to chapter 31, and the tribes began to settle. And so, interesting study. Numbers, a history of Israel's 40 years in the wilderness. The name comes from the word numbers, census that was taken twice, chapter 1, chapter 26. Moses being the author, much internal and external evidence, chapter 33, and in verse 2 in particular to that. Let's go over and look at that, 33. Get the right chapter here. 33 and verse 3, they set out from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month, on the day after the Passover. The people of Israel went out and triumphantly in the sight of all the Egyptians. And so that kind of gives us an idea. Verse 2, Moses, it says, wrote down their starting places, stage by stage, by the command of the Lord, and these are their stages according to their starting place. They set out from Ramses. So it says Moses. It's pointed out. The date covers roughly 39 years, somewhere around 1444 BC to 1405 BC. You may see various other dates. Israel was an infant nation when they started out, and even a great nation when they got there. Of course, we're going to find, or have found out, there's roughly 1,850 fewer people than when they took the first census. Various reasons we've talked about for possibility. The book of Leviticus we talked about were given in the month in between the two, the end of Leviticus and or end of Exodus and the beginning of Numbers. We happen to be through this study as we go, traveling there at the end of the book. Moses writes a review of Israel's journey from Egypt to Canaan. Laws of inheritance are revealed and outlined so that some women can own property. That's the last thing we're going to find talked about in this book. There it is. The theme of the book has been consequence of disbelief in God and disobedience to God. It costs the old generation their lives in the wilderness, save for Joshua and Caleb. Even Moses and Aaron lose their lives and don't get to enter the promised land. 3 parts to the book. Preparation of the old generation to inherit the promised land, chapter 1, verse 1 to chapter 10, verse 10. The failure of the old generation to inherit the land, chapter 10, verse 11 through 12, verse 16. There we have the spies, 12 spies sent out. 10 gave a bad report. We can't inherit. They were thinking about their own means and not thinking about God's help there. And then they all fell in the wilderness, as is pointed out in chapter 26 there, and the preparation of the new generation to inherit the land. That census they did pointed out that there was nobody save Joshua and Caleb left from the old generation. With that, we began chapter 31. Of course, here is the trip as most of the archaeologists today agree this was the trip. Bob Ballard even did some exploration down there at Etham, Migdal, the strait down there at the bottom of the wilderness of Shur, as you look at it on this map. This information comes from my friend Steve Rudd's site, Bible.ca, CA for Canada. He's in Canada. A day's journey is approximately 24 miles. Keep that in mind when as you see the thing, everything that says a day's journey considered 24 miles in a day. Again, here's the travel. Had fun discussing this. Now, I want to keep this map in mind, and in the class, I'll try to bring this map to another spot. There's a couple other spots that as I was recording, I realized we need this map in other places, but keep this in mind. They are at the upper end of the Dead Sea at the writing of this section. Plains of Moab, you're going to see referred to Numbers 36, verse 13, the last verse. Mount Nebo, we see Deuteronomy 32, 49, where Moses, his life's taken, where he dies there. We'll see Deuteronomy 32, verse 49. So with that, Numbers chapter 31. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, now watch this, take full revenge for the sons of Israel on the Midianites, and afterward you will be gathered to your people. Now people will say, well, yeah, but the Lord said, we're not to take vengeance. But notice in chapter 12 of Romans, he talks about vengeance, he says, is mine. I will repay, says the Lord. So it's the Lord's vengeance being taken here. Lord is avenging these tribes, and he's telling them to exercise, to do the Lord's bidding. Yeah, the Lord could take vengeance and just drop them all dead, but he's telling them to choose 12 men from each tribe to do this. So that's 12,000 armed for war. Now, when you look at this, we're going to notice they killed the kings of Midian with the rest of their slain. Evi, Rechem, this is verse 8 of chapter 31, Zer, Hur, and Reba. Now, that's a man's name there. There's women today. I've known 3 Rebas. The librarian we had when I was in college was named Reba. Of course, my wife's named Reba, and then there's a guy here in Spring Hill, his wife, that passed, God rest her soul. Her name was Reba. We used to have a lot of fun joking about that, but I'll leave that for another time. The 5 kings of Midian. But notice who else they killed. Also, they killed Balaam, the son of Beor, with the sword. Now, remember Balaam. You get back over here and we find out what Balaam did. You remember what his big thing was. You know, he wanted Balak wanted him to curse the children of Israel, but he couldn't. But then we learned later what he did. He invited the children of Israel to worship Baal worship. Some people pronounce that Baal, but Baal, B-A-A-L. Most of the time I see in that region pronounced Baal. And we see that they were invited to fornicate with the Midianites. And we see Phinehas, of course, the zeal of Phinehas talked about in chapter 25 that we discussed, ran a spear through both who had been committing fornication. And so for that, we have Balaam mentioned here, the son of Beor, who is also killed among those who are killed. We have the conquest, the victory over Midian, chapter 31, verse 1 through 54. We have Israel fights, kills all the men, plunders women, animals, and property. Moses is angry because the male children and non-virgin females, notice that females that had been with men, that's what they're talking about, have been spared. And so Israel kills them all. Now this is 31 verse 14, you have this. Moses was angry with the officers of the army, of the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds who had come from service of war. Moses said to them, have you let all the women live? Behold, these on Balaam's advice caused the people of Israel to act treacherously against the Lord in the incident of Peor. And so the plague came among the congregation of the Lord. Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman who has known a man by lying with him. But all the young girls who have not known man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. Encamp outside the camp 7 days. Whoever of you has killed any person, whoever has touched any slain, purify yourselves and your captives on the 3rd day out, and on the 7th day you shall purify every garment, every article of skin, all work of goat's hair, and every article of wood. And so that's what takes place there. And so then they approach Moses. And Eleazar the priest said to them, verse 21, to the men of the army who had gone to battle, this is the statute of the law that the Lord has commanded Moses, only the gold and silver, the bronze, iron, the tin, and the lead, everything that can stand in the fire. You shall pass through the fire, and it shall be clean. In other words, cloth is not going to be able to pass, it's going to burn up. So that's what's saying. Some things it's going to take a high heat to destroy. Nevertheless, it shall also be purified with water. That's what's going to happen to what can't pass through the fire. For impurity, and whatever cannot stand the fire, you shall pass through the water, and you must wash your clothes on the 7th day, and you shall be clean, and afterward you may come into the camp. And so that's what they're going to do. They're going to divide the plunder into 2 parts between the warriors and all the congregation. And they're going to, of course, pay a tribute to the Lord from the men of the war who went out to battle, and one out of 500 people, and of the oxen and donkeys and all the flocks. Take it from their half and give it to Eleazar the priest as a contribution to the Lord. And from the people of Israel's half you shall take 1 drawn out of every 50 of the people, of the oxen, the donkeys, and of the flock and all the cattle, and give them to the Levites who keep guard over the tabernacle. Moses and Eleazar the priest did as the Lord commanded. And then the remainder of this chapter, the numbers of the plunder. 337,500 sheep, verse 36. The cattle were 36,000, which contributed to the Lord was 72. And he goes on down through there and explains that all the way down through chapter 31. In Numbers chapter 32, we get a lot more for Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh on the east side of the Jordan. It says, now the sons of Reuben, verse 32, chapter 32, the people of Reuben and the people of Gad had a very great number of livestock, and they saw the land of Jazer and the land of Gilead, and behold, the place was a place for livestock. And so suitable for livestock. So the people of Gad and the people of Reuben came and said to Moses and to Eleazar the priest and to the chiefs of the congregation, names the chiefs there, says the land, verse 4, that the Lord struck down before the congregation of Israel is a land for livestock, and your servants have livestock. Verse 5. If we have found favor in your sight, let this land be given to your servants for a possession, and do not take us across the Jordan. So there's what they're wanting. They want this land. They want to just settle on this side of the Jordan. And they go on to say, Moses said to the people of Gad and to the people of Reuben, shall your brothers go to the war while you sit here? In other words, his idea was they were going to go, and he asked that question. And why will you discourage the heart of the people of Israel from going over into the land that the Lord had given them? You know, your fathers did this when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to see the land, for when they went up to the valley of Eshcol and saw the land, they discouraged the heart of the people of Israel from going into the land that the Lord had given them. The Lord's anger was kindled on that day, and he swore, saying, surely none of the men who came out of Egypt from 20 years old and upward shall see the land that I swore to give Abraham and to Isaac. And of course, that's true. But now drop over to verse 18. He continues with that thought, Moses does. But verse 18 say, we will, here's their response. We will not return to our homes until each of the people of Israel has gained his inheritance. We promise, in other words, to help subdue the land and everyone in Israel get their inheritance. We're not going to just sit here and do this way, we find. Now, continuing on, we find going on here. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying to the sons of Israel, and said, let's see what Moses, he says in verse 20, Moses says, here we go, said to them, if you will do this, if you will take up arms to go before the Lord for the war, and every armed man of you will pass over the Jordan before the Lord until he has driven out his enemies from before him, and the land is subdued before the Lord, then after that you shall return and be free of obligation. And to the Lord and to Israel, and this land shall be your possession before the Lord. But if you will not do so, behold, you have sinned against the Lord, and be sure your sin will find you out. That's where we get that expression, that your sin will find you out. So he told them, build cities for your little ones, verse 25, and folds for your sheep. Do what you have to have promised. And the people of Gad and the people of Reuben said to Moses, your servants will do as my Lord commands. Our little ones, our wives, our livestock, and our cattle shall remain there in the cities of Gilead. They're going to stay here. We'll let them go, and then we'll go with you. Men will go. But your servants will pass over every man who is armed for war before the Lord to battle as my Lord orders. So Moses gave command concerning them to Eleazar the priest and to Joshua the son of Nun and the heads of the father's house and of the tribes of the people of Israel. And Moses said to them, if the people of Gad and the people of Reuben, every man who is armed to battle before the Lord, will pass with you over the Jordan, and the land shall be subdued before you, then you shall give them the land of Gilead for a possession. However, if they don't pass over with you, they shall have possessions among you in the land of Canaan. And the people of Gad and the people of Gilead answered, what the Lord has said to your servants, we will do. We will pass over armed before the Lord into the land of Canaan, and to the possession of our inheritance shall remain with us beyond the Jordan. So Moses gave to them the people of Gad and to the people of Reuben, to the half tribe of Manasseh, the sons of Joseph, son of Joseph, the kingdom of Shion, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, the king of Bashan, the land and its cities with their territories, and the cities of the land throughout the country. And the people of Gad built Dibon, there's the places, Athra, Aror, Atroth Shatham, Jazer, Jogbaha, Zen, that is Kadesh. Said that that's what we find that they built. I think I got 2 pages there. And then there's some more name, Beth Nimrah, Beth being house. Beth Haran, fortified cities, folds for the sheep. So they did all that. And they even went and captured a village, and they renamed it Naboth after its own name. So that's what we have going on in chapter 33. Chapter 34, we get into recounting Israel's journey. In the first part, God's going to tell them about the different boundaries. God had a place for all of them. God has a place for us in his service. A description of the borders of the land are defined. Verses 1 through 15 of chapter 34. What we have here in chapter 34. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, command the people of Israel, chapter 34, command the people of Israel and say to them, when you enter the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall to you for an inheritance, the land of Canaan as defined by its borders. Then he says, your south side shall be from the wilderness of Zin along Edom, and your southern border shall run from the end of the Salt Sea, that's the Dead Sea, on the east, and your border shall turn south of the ascent of Akrabim and cross to Zin, and its limit shall be south of Kadesh Barnea. Then it shall go to Hazar Adar and pass along Asmon, and the border shall turn from Asmon to the brook of Egypt, and its limit shall be at sea, that is the Mediterranean Sea. For the western border you shall have the Great Sea, there's the Mediterranean Sea, and its coast. This shall be your western border. This shall be your northern border from the great sea. You shall draw a line to Mount Hor. From Mount Hor you shall draw a line to Lebo Hamath, and the limit of the borders shall be Zadad. Then the borders shall extend to Zephron and shall be Hazar Enan. This shall be your northern border. So there it is on the map. There you have it. You see it on the draw there, as we show you on this chart. So you draw a line from your eastern border to Shepham, and the border shall go down to Shaphan to Rablah on the east side of Anan. There you have it. And the border shall reach the shoulder of the sea of Chinnereth on the east. And the border shall go down to the Jordan, and its limit shall be at the Salt Sea or the Dead Sea. This shall be your land as defined by its border all around. Now that's the land you're to possess. That's all they're to possess. Moses commanded the people of Israel, saying, this is the land that you shall inherit by lot. Going to choose lots, and God's going to assign through lots each tribe their land. It's what we have. Says, and to give to the 9 tribes and to the half tribe, in other words, the other half of Manasseh. They've already got half of the tribes got an inheritance already, so they're going to get another half. It says the 2 tribes and the half tribe have received their inheritance on the Jordan east of Jericho toward the sunrise. So now we have a list of the tribal leaders next. We won't go through all of them. You can read that at your leisure, and you'll have who the leaders are there. Now, want to say a little bit about the 12 tribes of Israel. Of course, we know the 12 tribes of Israel, starting with this chart on the left, were Jacob's sons. Jacob had 12 sons by 4 mothers. Leah had Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun. And then by Bilhah, Dan, Naphtali, Zilpah, Gad, Asher, Rachel, whom, of course, Jacob loved the most, Joseph, who had 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, Benjamin. And there's the passages in Genesis that talk about these men had families who grew into a nation of 12 tribes while in Egypt for 400 years. Now, Levi, I want you to notice this. 3 tribes emerged that stayed with the Lord. You have Levi. Moses was from Levi. Aaron was from Levi. They were loyal to God when the rest of Israel worshiped the golden calf. Exodus 32, as you remember. When Israel reached the promised land, Moses came to God. So we have Judah in this tribe that emerged. Then Joshua was from the tribe of Ephraim. He's loyal to God and Moses, and God chooses him to lead Israel. Deuteronomy 31, verse 7 and 8. Levi's blessing for being loyal to God, instead of land, the tribe inherits the responsibility for God's temple and worship. Levite priests live off the offerings from the people. We have this in Deuteronomy 18, verse 1 and 2, and we'll talk about that as we get there. So the tribes, what we're talking about, the land now. 12 territories are going to be divided out on the west side. As you see my line there, west east. Judah from Issachar, Zebulun, Naphtali, Asher, Simeon, Dan. And Dan abandons their land and moves north. Judges 18, we'll see. Manasseh gets land on both sides, we'll see. The east side, Reuben, Gad, half tribe of Manasseh. And then, when we get to the United Kingdom, we're not there yet in the study, but we'll be there. David is from the tribe. We see he becomes king from the tribe of Benjamin, actually, and unites the 12 tribes. Or David's from Judah. Sorry about that. David, the United Kingdom. King David from the tribe of Judah unites the 12 tribes into the kingdom. Capital at Jerusalem. Commissions the God at Jerusalem with David. Now the divided kingdom, Israel, the 10 tribes, takes a new king, happens to be from the tribe of Ephraim. New capital Samaria, new religion, and falls to Assyria. 2 Kings 7. The southern tribe, consisting of Judah and Benjamin, 1 Kings 12, keeps Levi, 2 Chronicles 11:13. Other families join, 2 Chronicles 15, verses 8 through 10. They fall to Babylon, 2 Chronicles chapter 36. Of course, Israel 771 BC, 721 BC, and then Judah 536, 605. We actually start there. Then when he selects a new set of the apostles who represent the beginning of a new Israel. Jesus is the Messiah, the heir of David, Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. Jesus is related to Aaron, the new high priest, Luke chapter 1, verse 6, verse 36, Hebrews 4:14. Paul calls those in Christ the Israel of God, Galatians 3, verse 7, Galatians 6, verse 6. Peter calls the church a holy nation, royal priest, 1 Peter 2, verses 9 through 10. I thought that chart would help a lot, and we'll refer to that chart as we go through our study. Numbers 35. The Lord spoke to Moses, command, in verse 35, command the sons of Israel that they give to the Levites cities to live in and pasture for their cattle and their herds. Remember, we've talked about these cities of refuge. We've already found out in the book of Exodus, we studied that they were told there were going to be cities of refuge when you get into the promised land. So we're getting ready for the promised land. And so we have these cities of refuge, of course, talked about in the book of Leviticus as well. And he says the Levites are not living in cities. They're going to get 42 cities next to them, pasture for their cattle and their herds. When you look at the list of the cities, you'll find out they're scattered among all the children of Israel so they can see to their religious needs. And so that's what we're told here in the beginning. But then in verse 6, the cities that you give to the Levites shall be the 6 cities of refuge. You're going to have 6 cities where you shall permit the manslayer to flee, and in addition to them, you shall give 42. So there's our 42 plus 6, 48. All the cities that you give to the Levites shall be 48. There it is, with their pasture lands. And as for the cities that you shall give the possession of the people of Israel, from the larger tribe you shall take many, and from the smaller tribes you shall take few. each in proportion to the inheritance that it inherits shall give its cities to the Levites. So that's how the cities get their Levites. Then verse 9, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the people of Israel, say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall select cities to be cities of refuge for you, that the manslayer who kills any person without intent, not premeditated, may flee there. We've already studied. He flees there. He stays in that city. If he stays in that city till the high priest died, but if he comes out that city, then the avenger of blood, of course, can kill him. There are going to be 6 cities of refuge. You shall give 3 beyond the Jordan and 3 cities in the land of Canaan to be cities of refuge. And these 6 cities, so you're going to have 3 on each side. And here's a map to kind of show you that. There's Kadesh up there close to the Sea of Galilee. You've got Shechem. There's Hebron, of course, is the city of refuge. Jerusalem was within that same territory of the city of refuge, Hebron. Then you've got Golan and Ramoth Gilead. Those overlap, you'll notice. And then Bezor, there they are. We have a refuge today. Jesus is our refuge. Hebrews chapter 7, verse 25 points that out to us, by the way. You give 3 beyond the Jordan and 3 cities in the land. 3 beyond there is Golan, Ramoth Gilead, and Bezor is there. And he gives the example of the one who kills any person without intent may flee there. They start running, and you see the distance they can get to those cities. And if he struck him down with an iron object so that he died, he's a murderer. If he did it, intent. But if he struck him down with a stone tool that could cause death and he died, he's a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. We're not harboring murderers. We're not giving them refuge, in other words. But the murderer shall be put to death. The avenger of blood shall himself put the murderer to death. When he meets him, he shall put him to death. And if he pushed him out of hatred or hurled something at him, lying in wait so that he died, or an enmity struck him down with stone hand so he died, then he who struck the blow shall be put to death. The avenger of blood shall put the murderer to death when he meets him. And so again, we have the laws for the cities of refuge. And of course, this is basically what the congregation is going to judge between the slayer and the blood avenger, verse 24. We saw that. The blood avenger is the one who's going to put him to death. Of course, blood pollutes the land, and no expediation can be made for the land for the blood that is shed on it except by the blood of him who shed it. So you'll not defile the land in which you live, in the midst of which I dwell, God says, for I, the Lord, am dwelling in the midst of the sons of Israel, verse 33 and verse 34. Then the last chapter in our study. The heads of the father's house of the clan of the people of Gilead, the son of Machir, son of Manasseh, from the clans of the people of Joseph, came near and spoke to Moses before the chiefs. Heads of the father's house, they said, the Lord commanded my Lord to give the land for inheritance by lot to the people of Israel, and my Lord was commanded by the Lord to give the inheritance of Zelophehad, our brother, to his daughters. Now, this inheritance and this marrying outside the tribe is now going to come up in 36, is what we have. Says, but if they are married to any of the sons of the other tribes of the people of Israel, then their inheritance will be taken from the inheritance of our father. Then their inheritance will be taken from the inheritance of our fathers and added to the inheritance of the tribe into which they marry. So it will be taken away from the lot of our inheritance. And when the Jubilee of the people of Israel comes, then their inheritance will be added to the inheritance of the tribe into which they marry, and their inheritance will be taken away from the inheritance of the tribe. Now, Moses, he says to them, according to the word of God, saying, the tribe of the people of Joseph is right. This is what the Lord commands concerning the daughters of Zelophehad. Let them marry whom they think best, only they shall marry within, now here's this, within the clan of the tribe of their father. You got to marry within their father's clan. They can't go and marry another tribe, out of another tribe. The inheritance of the people of Israel shall not be transferred from one tribe to another, for every one of the people of Israel shall hold on to the inheritance of the tribe of his father. Every daughter who possesses an inheritance in any tribe of the people of Israel shall be wife to one of the clan of the tribe of her father, so that every one of the people of Israel may possess the inheritance of his fathers. So there's the ruling. No inheritance will be transferred from one tribe to another, for each of the tribes of the people of Israel shall hold on to its own inheritance. So the daughters of Zelophehad did as the Lord commanded Moses, for Mahlah, Tirzah, Haglah, Melahah, and Noah, the daughters of Zelophehad, were married to the sons of their father's brothers. They were married into the clans of the people of Manasseh, the sons of Joseph, and their inheritance remained in the tribe of their father's clan. These are the commandments and the rules that the Lord commanded through Moses to the people of Israel in the plains of Moab by the Jordan. So there's our completion of our study of the book of Numbers. Hope you've enjoyed this study. And our next study will be taking up the book of Deuteronomy. And with that study, we'll be taking up Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 1, and we'll go to 3, verse 29, where we will review God's acts for Israel. Now, if you found this video helpful and want to learn more, be sure to download the note card that goes along with this lesson and our free Bible correspondence course. You'll find the link to the Bible correspondence course in the description below. We here at the Spring Hill Church of Christ, meeting at 405 Butler Street, Spring Hill, Louisiana, Sunday morning worship 9:45, Sunday morning assembly 10:35, Sunday afternoon assembly 4 p.m., Wednesday evening Bible study 6:30. We want to help you with your growth in the knowledge of God's Word. Remember, we are in it for the likes and the subs, so be sure to subscribe. Tell your friends and like us so we can increase those numbers. So with that, thanks for watching and listening. In the meantime, in between time, see you next time. Cheerio, mate. Bob's your uncle.